I started out with Thomas Hart Benton in Kansas City, one of my instructors. That was at the tag end of the Depression, and I did my first mural on the WPA. I was at the Kansas City Art Institute. In my senior year, I went on the WPA and painted my first mural, which was egg tempera. And then, of course, like everybody else, the government grabbed us and put us in uniform. And then we came out here after the war to study under Boardman Robinson, who was in his own right a great mural painter. So we did come out here on the GI Bill, and within a year we decided that, Mary Ann decided, that Colorado was a pretty nice place and that we'd better find ourselves a piece of land and put a house on it. And because notoriously when the artist comes on hard times, he'll have a place to go and hide out. In my third year at the Fine Arts Center School, Broadmoor Academy School, somebody found I had a transcript with a little previous college in it. And they said, you're out of your mind, you've got all this art, and you don't have a degree to your name. So I did go over to CC, and I got the BA, and then she said, you know, we could give you a master's in 1 year with all the art that you got. So we did the master's, and the dome mural here was my product for a thesis. And I was working with, of course, with Robinson, and then Robinson became ill, and Charlot came in and took over. And Charlot was part of the Mexican mural revival. After 1920, he was Frenchman. I came to Mexico City, and he knew exactly how the Mexican muralists worked. And so that was a real eye-opener for me.
In 2010, Eric started talking about the possibility of doing another mural for someone. And as we were going into our 75th, we talked about the reality that would mean a lot for us, since we've had such a long relationship with Eric. And you know, we have his work in the collection. He worked on the mural out front on the facade, and started talking about, well, how does that happen? Eric came down, looked at some spaces. We spent quite a bit of time looking at different spaces all throughout the building, in the original part of the building and the new expanded part of the building. And I think it was significant for all of us to do something in the expansion, right? Because we have a long tradition all the way back to the beginnings, 1936, of murals being integrated into the original part of the building. And so wanted to get that carried into the new part, and really illustrate that there are continuing traditions going on at the Fine Arts Center up till now and into the future. And that's what the mural is really about.
As far as this painting is concerned, I thought we would try to symbolize the activities of the Fine Arts Center. A long mural like this, like a Greek frieze, unfolds in time. Your eyes move from left to right, and they go across the wall. The symbol is of the Broadmoor Academy. It's the seal. Since the Fine Arts Center is a performing arts center as well as visual arts, I put a musician over here, the traditional violinist, and I put the saxophone player with a little jazz perhaps over here. And we're putting Boardman Robinson over here painting in the corner, perhaps his Department of Justice murals. You know, we won't show them in detail, it'll be somewhat abstract. And I have a muse. I want a little fantasy in on this. So I have a muse floating overhead, the artist's muse, and he's about to put the victory wreath on one of the students' head. So that's a little whimsy. And we move on to a group of dancers in here. I've drawn from the dance a lot. I used to draw from Hanya Holm and her group considerably. And we finally went to considerations of theater on the last panel. And we have, for tragedy, we're dealing with Hamlet. And for the comedic side, we deal with Martha Graham, Dance Again. And we have a little whimsical figure that occurs, I think, somewhere in Baroque art that pushes the curtains back. So another little winged figure that will be in there. So that's essentially what we're dealing with. In the 1930s, there was a revival in mural painting during the Depression. And incidentally, George Biddle, who was well known here, several pieces of his work are part of the collection here. George Biddle went to Franklin Roosevelt. They'd been to school together. They knew each other intimately. He went to him and said, "You need to be putting the artists to work during the Depression, reminding the country of its history and its values, etc., just as the Mexicans did after the revolution in Mexico City." So I got bit by the bug at that time, and the bug still works.